Hi, it's Steve from Arteria3D.com. Thank you for checking out this video today, and what we're going to be taking a look at is the new sci-fi construction interior kit. Arteria have released many environment packs over the past few years which have given the user the ability to make their own 3D scene from the 3D assets that we provide in various kits over the years. One problem with predefined kits is that from the user's perspective, they may not want one building that another customer may have in their particular game, or a series of customers may be using within their games. With Clicks 3D and the Sci-Fi Construction Interior Pack, we give you a series of floor meshes, wall meshes, ceilings, windows, doors, and a whole host of props to actually create your own sci-fi interior. What's more, if you use the Unity 3D game engine, we actually provide you also with materials already made with various texture stylings, shader maps already set up that you can simply drag onto these meshes within the 3D scene at an eye glance. If you don't like what you see in the scene, simply drag another material onto your mesh, and as they're all UV'd the same and accurately, the different elements, the different textures, I'll go onto these different meshes all coherently to create a nice 3D scene. If you're using the Unity 3D game engine, we also provide you with a series of materials using a shader that has been provided to us from the Chicken Shader Bundle from Chicken Lord on the Unity forums, and he's actually given us the Reflectivity Fresnel shader to use within the kit. This has already been applied to the materials, and when you drag a texture onto a particular surface, all the nice reflectivity associated with a lot of sci-fi type materials is already set up for you. And this is one thing that I really do love about the sci-fi genre. Although we can have mining settings and ruined sci-fi areas containing worn type materials, for me I absolutely love the high sheen, high reflectivity surfaces that are associated with a lot of sci-fi based interior settings. So as you can see, we have Unity already open. Now in the background in our 3D editor there is a sci-fi skybox already applied. This isn't included in the pack, but I purchased this from the Unity Assets store as I thought it made a nice backdrop to our scene today. If we actually take a look now at the Sci-Fi Interior Pack folder, you can see there are a variety of elements contained within this folder. Now when you've imported the Unity package into Unity, if indeed you are using the Unity game engine, this is what you'll see. So Arteria 3D Sci-Fi Interior Pack, construction pieces and materials, and we have props and materials and prop textures. Now if we go over here, our construction folder, if we take a click on this, you'll now see it contains a host of meshes and segments which we actually use to form our sci-fi interior setting. From ramps, floor pieces, whole corridor sectioned, end room sections, and so forth. If we come back out of that and we look in our props folder, you'll see a whole host of sci-fi props that we've included with the kit to help you define your 3D setting. Now what we're going to actually do is to start make a simple scene with the elements of the kit. So first, if we go into our construction folder and we'll place floor A into the scene. Now what's important so all the different elements snap to each other is if when we put an item in the scene, if we set it to 0, 0, 0 respectively for the X, Y and Z settings, and indeed this will be the centre of the game world. So we've put this first floor piece in, the start of our great 3D scene. If we now go on to Edit and bring our snap settings up, we have the snap window box. This has already been previously defined by myself, and we're actually using very small snap settings to provide greater flexibility while still retaining a small snap setting to easily place the pieces. This is 0.02 for X to Z, scale 0.1, and on a rotation if we set that to 90 degrees. Now let's see the snap to grid setting actually work here. So if we duplicate this piece by pressing Ctrl and D, and then we actually keep the Shift button pressed down and move along, you can see this piece snapping along as so. And if we zoom in, we can simply see how quick and easy it is to snap the two elements together. Now let's have a look at the materials and the textures that come in our pack. So construction pieces, and if we go onto our materials folder, we have two folders within here, which is floor materials and wall textures. Let's have a look at floor materials, floor textures, and you can see a variety of predefined materials already set up. If we click on one of these, you'll see on the side indeed that we've got our texture, and as mentioned, the Chicken Lord Reflective Fresnel Bump Specular has already been applied to this material. We've included a reflection cube map which we've created, and also a normal map. Now if we place this onto our piece by simply left clicking, pulling over, you can see straight away that this material has been applied. Notice the nice sheen and specular of the metal because we've used the Chicken Lord reflective shader. Now say for example you decide that you want a different material on these pieces. It's as simple as dragging the material over as so. So place that one there. Let's grab all the floor H and add that there. So quickly and easy we can create our own style. Let's go back to floor D. This is a particularly nice sci-fi corridor section. The next thing we're going to do is show you, for example, how to change the orientation of the texture on the floor pieces. Say for example you decide, well, I prefer the texture to be 90 degrees the other way. We don't have to do anything with the texture because the floor piece can conform to a specific size. We could simply rotate the element around. Control button pressed, and simply rotate along as so, and as you can see it's snapping to the next piece. Let's put it back to its original state. There we go. The next thing we're going to do is add a wall piece. So if we go into construction pieces and we move down and we take wall B, let's drag that into the scene, and again if we conform this to 0, 0, 0 for Y, for X, Y, Z respectively, this will then conform to our snap settings. Just press W to go into the move transform and simply move this along to the end of our floor piece, and remember we're keeping the key pressed down so it'll snap. There we go. We've snapped our first wall section onto our floor piece. Let's duplicate this along, so Control D and then Shift and drag along. And as you can see, we've created our next seamless wall piece. Let's add a texture. Let's go into the wall textures and drag one across. So I like this wall E. There we go. You can see nice reflectivity on that surface. Or on the second piece, we could have a different style. And what we're going to be releasing with the pack over the next few months are many different texture packs and mesh add-ons to expand the actual base kit with lots more elements. So let's go back to this piece. And there you go, we've got our first wall sections in. Now let's make our wall sections for the opposite side. So simply grab hold of these two elements, E to rotate, Control D to duplicate, and then pressing the Control key down so it will snap to grid. If we rotate this, and there you can see we've got the opposite side. Press W to transform, key the Shift key, press down, so all the meshes snap to grid. What we can do is also use these wall pieces to create our ceiling if we like. So let's press C and then press Control down, left mouse button pressed. Whoops, we've actually just rotated that section. Don't forget to Control D to duplicate, and then pressing the Control key down and the left mouse button, rotate these elements around, W to transform, and then keeping the keyboard button down so we snap to grid. And there we go, we have our ceiling piece. So our first corridor section has already been made. Now let's change the texture on the ceiling. So we could use one of our wall settings or even our floor textures. Or we could add a different texture to give a different look. As you can see, these textures simply drag on the elements to create a varied scene. Alright, let's go back to that one. Okay. Now what we're going to add now is a point light in the scene to add some nice atmospheric effects, because at the moment we don't have lighting. So create other, point light, now if you go on to your render settings, you'll notice my ambient light is very dark, as I think this gives a more dramatic look when you add lights in the scene. What I like to do on sci-fi type scenes is to alter the light from white to a nice blue style hue. I think it adds a lot of dramatic effect to the corridor scenes. And as you can see, you get a nice specular on these walls now with the subtle reflectivity, and on the floors you've got the nice metallic effects come through on the floor pieces. Now what we can do now is, as we've created our first corridor piece, is to simply select all the elements in the scene, including our light, Control D to duplicate, and keeping the key pressed down to control all the Shift key, we can simply drag our elements along, and as you can see, the snapping to the grid. There you go, we've got our next corridor section in. What we could do is actually change the hue of the light again, so it's a little bit lighter on this section, or we could go darker. And we've got a double corridor section. Now on this next one you may want different materials on the walls, so we could add this wall segment. In fact, I'm just lifting a texture there, and I need to actually grab hold of the material. So it's wall L. As you can see, nice reflective white surface with a nice edging there. And then if we grab hold there again, and as you can see on this particular texture, there's almost a red hue on the black edging elements, and that's because on the material I've actually got a slight red tint on that setting. And for the ceiling, we can actually go into our floor materials, and we can actually put a floor element, so a nice kind of metal grid effect, or we could have this nice texture here, and there you go. We could even change our floor, so for example we could put our floor H or floor O, and you've got a nice, look at that nice reflectivity on that surfaces. So that's what I absolutely love about sci-fi based 3D visualizations. That reflectivity really does bring the scene to life. Okay, now what we're going to add now is a prop to our scene. So for example, at the moment we're adding point lights to create light and elements. Why not add a light prop, and then put the point light by it in the scene? So let's go into our root folder again, Sci-Fi Interior Pack, and select props. And if we go down, we've got wall light A. So if we grab hold of this and bring this prop into the scene, these props and pieces are all scaled relative to each other. So what I like to do is actually put these elements maybe on the floor, so we could have lights run along the edging of the corridors. Control D to duplicate. No snap needed on this one. And just duplicate the elements along. Select all three and move them along there. Now what we could do is perhaps put our lights more down to where the light props are. We could reduce the intensity, and we could place a few more in the scene near the light props. There are various ways of actually making lighting effects, and we could use spotlights so the lights shine up from these elements, but at the moment that's all we need to do. Perhaps increase the intensity a bit. Now what I want to do is add some further props to give the scene a little bit more detail. So if we go into and add our prop G and pull this along, and simply place wherever you'd like to place it on the mesh. Actually scale it up a bit. And these prop elements just give the scene a little bit more detail to bring it all together. So we could duplicate this, duplicate it again, actually if we bring our light up, just so we get some nice reflectivity on these surfaces too. Then we could actually add some more props. Next, let's add another prop. So prop D, and if we move this along, we could use this in a variety of ways. That's it, the imagination. There are no limits. We can just put these elements in the scene and decide where we'd like them to go. So we could put that one there, for example. And quickly and easy, you'll see how these elements conform to make a really nice scene. And also, a lot of the props, size-wise, conform to the size of the floor and wall meshes, so these can connect together and conform to the same settings. So there we go. What we could do is even add this up here, for example. So Control D to duplicate. And then we'll rotate it around. And this really is a lot of fun, creating your own 3D scene from these elements. And don't forget, we'll be releasing many more prop packs and texture packs, as well as additional meshes for this pack in the near future. What we can add now is some more props. And we'll put that up here, I think. Connect two of those together. So from the various prop elements, you can create your own hybrid machinery or effects within your 3D world. Let's add some more props. Prop F. Let's bring that up here. Duplicate that along here. And as you can see, we start to fill this out nicely with our prop elements. Let's duplicate a few of those over the other side. And as you can see, already we've got a nice dramatic effect. Maybe change the colouring of our lights to give a different feel. It's definitely the lighting within scenes, especially relating to the reflectivity shader and normal maps, that really does give dramatic effects and light changes within the scene and brings it all together. I mean, sometimes even reds work quite nice and subtle. So, a nice red light perhaps there. Beautiful reflective surfaces. What we can then do is add some more corridor sections onto these. So, let's add our next section. What we could do now is actually add one of the what we call the prefab elements from the pack. Now these aren't Unity prefabs, these are just a collection of segment elements that we've actually put together ourselves and then provided them as sci-fi pack and prefabs that you can actually put in the scene with ready-made elements. So if we put wall B, corridor slope, and as you can see, what this is a slope area, so we could use it like that to go up, or simply rotate it around to slope the other way. Now again, let's just put this to 0, 0, 0, so these snap to settings will work correctly. And then if we keep the control key pressed down and actually move the elements along, I find sometimes it's better to switch the lighting off so we can actually match the elements up, especially on the slope areas. There we go. That piece has already snapped nicely. Turn our lighting back on. What we need to do is now add our floor textures again. So let's go to our root folder, go into our construction pieces, materials, and floor textures. And I think if we keep the same kind of styling there, so let's go down to floor O. And then if we go into our wall textures, and possibly if we put this particular style on this next area now, as you can see it's matched up with the other wall piece. And now if we put our ceiling texture on, I think if we go with a nice grid setting there, or we could continue with the texture we've used on our previous piece. Now what we could do from here is create another straight section, or indeed we could just duplicate it again and move this along using snap to grid, and in no time you've got the next sloping corridor section, and we could increase these all the way down here to create a nice sloped area. I think what we'll do is actually create a straight area here. So if we grab hold of this, just bring it out a minute just to make sure it's only got those elements selected. Control D to duplicate, keep the control key pressed down. Turn the lighting off to make it easier to see. There we go. We have our next snap to grid room element, as you can see already. Some nice atmosphere created within this scene. Let's duplicate this section again. Now what we'll do now is actually make a room section. So let's turn our lighting off again. If we grab hold of our floor, Control D to duplicate, and then pull this out again, all snap nicely. And if we expand it either way, and then on this section as well. And what we're going to do is put another wall piece in, but a prefab section actually contains two wall sections and a connector, so it connects onto this part here. Construction pieces. If we connect this, wall A, wall B connector, and you'll notice we've now got a straight wall section here. Let's rotate this around. Again, always using the snap to grid settings. Just make sure everything's lined up. Now what we'll do is also put the wall sections in for the other side. So we'll grab this piece here, which is the same connector style, but on the opposite. Let's rotate this around. Again, always using the snap to grid settings. And we can put our textures on this side now. There you go. In fact, let's add this one here. Let's add a different floor material. Put our lighting back on. Let's duplicate a light. Just see a nice scene start to form. One from before I didn't need. Let's delete that. So now what I want to do is create another floor section. So if we duplicate these and move them over, turn our lighting off a moment. There we go. If we take hold of this piece here, duplicate it, then we rotate it around, rotate it again, and if we connect it onto this piece to create the opposite wall and open it to continue our corridor section. Duplicate this piece, rotate around, there we go. We have this section again. Now what we could do here before we continue the corridor, let's add another prop section. Go into our props. And we've got this nice what we call wall B support. And it just finishes the entrance section off. We can add this on here. Duplicate it, rotate it around. There we go. Turn our lighting back on. And in fact what we could do is actually create some more design, duplicate these and put them at intervals along the corridor. If we go in now and let's add some more props. There really is no limit to what you can actually do here. Just a bit of imagination on the design. Let's duplicate those and bring them over. Put them on this part. Another prop. If you just actually move that one along. Put this back to its original size. Duplicate and copy the element over. And in fact, make a multiple section with this particular mesh. We could curve it in there. I think that's what's really nice about a kit like this, is that you can combine the elements as you wish to make a more detailed corridor setting, or simplistic as you require. Let's add this in here. Duplicate this section, rotate it around, and there we go. If we wanted now, let's go into the wall textures. Always easy to go onto the left into the project view and click on the wall textures folder. You see, alter the style as we wish. That looks quite nice. In fact, let's put the same one over the other side. See how quickly and easy it is to actually create a different look. I mean, look at that already. We've gone from this look. Let's start again. So now if we put these more metal style pieces on, that really is creating a nice visual look to the design. The props are UV'd, or most of them in a specific way, so they will actually react to these textures from the floor and wall pieces quite nicely. So for example, if we put wall L onto this prop, look at that nice visual high gloss white look. Let's put this one over here too, and instantly transforming the look of our scene. What we could do now is go back to our white gloss floor too. So if we go into our floor textures and add these on, look at that. Really, really nice. In fact, I like this texture that much. This white high gloss look. Let's go back into our wall materials. And add our wall L to these panels here. Let's change the floor again. Put on our floor O. Maybe put a mesh section on this particular one, or a grid, or even this nice design here. Let's floor G. Remember, when you're in the folder, rather than actually add the individual textures to the elements, to actually add the material versions, because the material versions already have all the shaders set up. So for example, there's the floor G texture, what I could drag over, but you'd want to use floor G material, which has all the normal maps and shaders set on. In fact, what I've decided to do here, you've got this nice floor effect, but on the corridors I'd like a slightly different take on this. So if we add our floor N, and what we'd need to do, if we like, is actually rotate these pieces around. So press Control, rotate, and I think this gives a nicer, more coherent look to this particular texture style. Don't forget to add this particular texture back onto there. And in fact now, if we go onto this floor in here, and let's add a different floor in, and go onto our walls here, maybe change the textures again. This is the beauty. You can go in, alter, add different styles, and have a break, come back to your project and think, no, I'll change that over to a different look now. As easy as that. Once we've done that, if we come back into our root folder and go into props, and there's this nice prop which I'd like to place in. Now we can leave this as the current texture, or what again is nice is to bring this high gloss white texture onto this. And as I say, because a lot of the props are UV'd in a specific way, a lot of the floor and wall elements will go on nicely onto the props as well. So let's try the floor textures and bring our floor O on top, or floor N. Let's go back to this one. And it gives a nice dramatic high gloss effect on this particular item. Or we could go back into our wall textures and we could bring the wall L one on there. I like the other one, I think, better. Let's keep that. Let's duplicate this element over. So it's on the other side. And we've got this really high-tech, modern kind of area with lovely reflectivity on the surfaces. Now what we're going to do now is close off the roof section to complete this, and indeed complete our small tutorial video. So let's do that right now. The first thing I'm going to do is to actually take these walls another level higher. So if we go in, we see the wall A corner piece B. Let's actually grab hold of this, pop it in the scene, rotate, and again if we put this to 0, 0, 0 for Y, X and Z. Let's move this along now. Again using the snap settings. Turn the lights off for a moment. And then if we duplicate this, and we rotate this around the other way, again do the same over this section, so duplicate and rotate. Okay. Now because we're connecting our wall A straight piece onto one of these curved pieces, if we now select this piece here, which is wall A, wall B connector, vertical, meaning this part is on the bottom, the connection part, and then if we put that to our 0 world coordinates, and then with our control key press for snap to grid, move this along, turn our lighting off so we can see easy. With this element in place, let's now duplicate and move over to our other side to close this section off. And as you can see, you're left with this piece here which would fit the wall B styling. And what we're going to do now is to actually put a wall texture on and give it a see-through glass effect. So let's go into our wall textures. We've got a variety of window style settings. One which matches this high gloss white is window B. In fact, if we put a window on the end, but in the center, if we actually put a standard wall texture, it's up to you which one you'd like to place. You could keep it like that. And then on these sections here, these walls, let's put the windows again. Again, these are already set up for you with the transparency and shader and cube effects on the glass. In fact, if you look at the demo picture shots for the pack, this is very similar to a room we created for those shots, and one you can see in the downloadable level. So now what we're going to do is actually now finish the ceiling off so it's all closed. So if we go into our construction pieces folder again, we actually grab the wall A, ceiling A, corner part. Let's rotate this into place, and again let's zero the mesh before we move using our snap to grid settings. Control key pressed, move along. And when you actually move it, you can see it kind of jutting along, not smoothly, because obviously it's conforming to a snap to grid. Turn the lights off for a moment. Let's move this mesh into place. And then slide it up. And there we have the ceiling element. Let's duplicate this and rotate it around. Duplicate this section and rotate and move along. Now what we're going to do is finish off the open areas here with a straight part. So if we grab this wall A ceiling slope section and we rotate around again, always 0, 0, 0 to start, and then snap to grid, move it along. A little bit more, there we go. And if we do the same with the section on the other side, rotate around, there we have our ceiling part done, and we can now apply a texture to this. So let's go into our wall textures, and we can put any particular style we like. It's quite nice. Or, you know, a different style in the middle perhaps. Basically whatever you actually like to put, you know, on there yourself, maybe that part. And all we simply need to do now is either grab one of our floor pieces to actually put over the top, or indeed we do have a special piece which actually fits the size of these elements as well. It really depends on the look you're going for. For now, I think I'll just grab the floor pieces from here, duplicate those, and just bring those up. And you can actually create a secondary level on top of this. Duplicate this, as I forgot to bring it up from the previous level. And there we now have a nice ceiling element. We could conform this texture piece here to the same style as the others. Floor materials. Or we could even put a window in perhaps. And have it like these sections here. But for the time being, let's keep it as is. So there we go. We've made our nice room, connecting corridor, some props, high gloss effect, windows and roof on the model. Thanks for watching the tutorial video today, showing you how to make a small sci-fi scene with the contents of the sci-fi construction pack, and hope you'll now have great fun making your own levels. We'll keep you informed on Arteria 3D and on the forums of any new packs that release, be it texture packs, prop packs, or other packs associated with the new Clix 3D level system. And again, thanks for watching today. Bye.